Look at this. Is that not completely stupid? I needed a Telecaster. I wanted a Telecaster. And I don't buy a lot of guitars. You guys know I don't need a lot of guitars. I'm not a materialistic person. However, I don't have anything with that nice teletone. You know, that dang bang teletwang. I want to kill myself. So I'm doing some research. I'm doing some research on the Fender website, and then I realized I'm going to be putting myself into debt for the next decade, and I probably won't be able to settle down with a family in a nice home. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. So what are the alternatives for me, a young 20-year-old kid who doesn't make any money necessarily? You got Michael Kelly, you got Squire. I bought a Squire. That's right. The old cliche, I'm gonna play a sick riff on a cheap guitar to show you that it's a good guitar. But I'm not gonna be too cliche in this video. I'm not a gear review channel. I think instead, I'm gonna take you guys to class. This is supposed to be a classroom, but I couldn't find a good overlay with like a chalkboard right here. We're in a movie theater. I think we need to address the elephant in the room. It's pretty obvious, right? It's like, yeah, you're gonna look rich, you're gonna look really cool if you buy that nice Gibson custom shop. However, you're playing in bars 3 nights a week. It's pretty obvious you're not bringing in the big bills. You're running a music-based YouTube channel. It's pretty obvious you're not bringing in the big bill. But you could say that's a pro of having an expensive guitar. Looking rich. As if anyone cares. This is boring. This is a boring video. I gotta up the heat. One other thing that we can note about cheap guitars is their disposability. Is that a word? I don't know. When you're playing these gigs, guess what? Bad stuff's gonna happen to your gear. I think that's like nacho cheese or like mustard. Oh, that's cum. Would you rather that gear be a $400 Squire or a $3,500 custom shop Les Paul? I don't know why I keep using a custom shop Les Paul as the expensive guitar example. So altogether, I think that's kind of a dumb reason. I didn't write anything down for this. Now you could say that an expensive guitar is made with care. Now it is true that a lot of expensive guitars are made by hand rather than in a factory, like these lower class poor guitars. I just think that's kind of a dumb flex to be like, my guitar's made by hand, made out of mahogany, and it's made by hand. It's not made in a factory like it's some kind of Toyota Corolla. Guitars can become very expensive because they're handmade, using premium woods and materials. Look, I understand that you want a guitar that's made with a little bit of emotion, right? It's made by a human being. But why is it worth an extra 0 on that number for that? Would you buy a guitar if it was made by child slaves? Child slavery, that's technically made by hand. It's made with emotion, that's for damn sure. I could see Gibson doing something like that. They seem like that kind of company. It'd probably lower their prices a little bit too. That's a joke, I'm joking. Gibson is never going to lower their prices. It comes back to the old argument, can a machine make a guitar better than a human can? And that brings us into the realm of quality. Cheap guitars are being made better. It is a true fact. It is a known fact. How are they doing this in the first place? How are they making these guitars better? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what if it is child labor? That's messed up. What do you think about my new Squire, huh? Because now whenever I look at it, I see little Indonesian children in a sweatshop trying to get that neck just right to fit in my hand perfectly. I don't like that anymore. Now there is absolutely no evidence. I've done research. There's no evidence to say that Squire, Epiphone, Ibanez, any of these companies used forced and or child labor. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But what if they are using child labor? But even with that, the cheap guitars still aren't necessarily caught up with the quality of a very nice, expensive guitar. But They could get there, who knows? And one thing I will say about expensive guitars, acoustics aren't caught up with this trend yet. With acoustics, you're still getting what you pay for. I have a $300 acoustic guitar. It's an Ibanez, and the sound quality is not good. Now, I was going to do a comparison between a cheap acoustic guitar and an expensive acoustic guitar to show you guys how it be. However, I don't own an expensive acoustic guitar. I also don't know why I've been staring into the camera with a beautiful smile on my face this whole time. I'm acting like one of those damn cringy TikTokers. I hate those fucking TikTok. And there might be some exceptions. There might be like a few $300 acoustic guitars that sound like a $2,000 Taylor or something. Who knows? I don't care. Hey, you know what else you can do if you buy a cheap guitar? This is just me with my big IQ. Buy more guitars. For the price of a Gibson Les Paul 60 Standard, you can buy an Epiphone Les Paul Studio electric guitar in wine red. Squire Telecaster, but with P90s, because why wouldn't you want a guitar with P90s? A Squire Telecaster, but it's a baritone Telecaster. An Ibanez 8-string. It's the cheap one, but it gets the job done. A Gretsch Streamliner. A great guitar with a terrible tremolo system. But if you need a good jazzy tone, get an Epiphone 12-string. Why not? And then throw bias effects on there for good measure. You can get literally any sound that a guitar can produce for the price of a standard 60s Les Paul. We have one more thing to talk about. Tone. I only have one thing to say on tone, and let me tell you, I found a way to kill every boomer. I don't hate boomers. I'm not one of these guys on Reddit that's calling for a genocide of all boomers. I don't care. However, they hate me. They hate me. My comment sections, it's like an epidemic of dudes embracing tradition. So I'm firing back. You can make anything sound good with a digital plugin. Alright, I've got my $900 Ibanez RG450. This is the most expensive guitar that I own. I'm pretty sure. And we've got it loaded up in bias effects. This is an Ibanez RG450. It retails at about $400, less than half the price of the RGA we just played. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, I think you know what this is. This guitar is $70. It's got a Jackson neck on it. However, that's the only thing that's not stock, and this whole ordeal. That's not stock, obviously. The pickups are stock, all the electronics are stock. That's Hendrixy. I haven't done anything to the preset either. Let me see, I'm gonna drop the mids a little bit. Let me take the gain down just a tiny bit. The only thing that I will say is different between all three of these guitars is the playability, and it's really not even that much of a difference. But let's talk about that for a minute. Jack White said this, I'm not trying to take his quote, but isn't it better when you have to fight the guitar a little bit to make it sound good? I just think something about that makes it cooler, you know? It's like you don't just pick it up and it sounds good. You gotta get to know this guitar before you can make it sound good. And I like that. It's kind of cheesy. It's very cheesy, actually. In conclusion, what's better? A cheap guitar or an expensive guitar? The whole question behind this video in the first place. I think it's all your preference. It's just whatever you want. It's your preference. That was a lie. I was just gonna be like, yeah, buy a cheap guitar. There's no reason to buy an expensive guitar. But there is a reason to buy an expensive guitar. It's still, you know, it's cool. I think what you need to take away from this video is an expensive guitar is a luxury. It's not a necessity, though. You don't need an expensive guitar to sound good. But if you want to buy an expensive guitar, it doesn't affect me whatsoever. Go do it. I just think I'm going to stick to cheap guitars, you know? Or cheaper guitars. I wouldn't buy anything that's under $200. I think I'm just making this video because I've seen on the internet so many kids that think they need a more expensive guitar to sound good or to look cooler or whatever, but they can't afford it, just like how I was when I still can't afford it. You don't have to worry about it. It's not a necessity. And on that note, you're gonna go far, kid.